Briefly describe the process which leads to the final scientific findings and reports, and on that vein, how can you manage to coordinate and lead thousands of scientists worldwide?
Well, the IPCC has very well-established procedures, and when we start the process of an assessment, the first thing that has to be done when we start the process of a scientific assessment, the first thing that has to be done is to come up with an outline of what is to go into a particular report. And for that purpose, we start with what is called a scoping exercise. And typically, this is carried out by getting maybe 200 people of diverse backgrounds who know about climate change, who understand climate change, to come together for 3 or 4 days and then discuss and debate what should be the contents of a particular report. They come up with a scoping document which gives you the scope of what the report should do, and this is then agreed to after discussion and commenting by governments into what is called the outline of the report. Then based on that outline, we write to all the governments in the world and some international organizations to get nominations of scientists who would work as authors of that report. And to give you a set of numbers, in the fifth assessment report, we got more than 3,000 nominations of scientists with their CVs, and out of that 831 were selected. So these are essentially those scientists who are directly involved in the writing of the report, most of them as authors and a small number as what is called review editors. But over and above that, there's a large number that gets involved as expert reviewers of the drafts, because at each stage of the draft there is a peer review that is carried out by experts. They give a series of comments, and typically in one working group report you could get over 50,000 comments, and each one of them has to be taken into account. And you have to record whether you accept the comment or reject it. If you reject it, you've got to give reasons. So it's a very transparent and it's a very objective process that is carried out. The final draft goes for reviews to governments as well. And then finally, the comments are taken into account, the draft is modified and then placed before the governments. And the summary for policymakers, which is a document summarizing the major technical contents of a report, is approved word by word by all the governments of the world. And this could take 5 days, because you can imagine we have to arrive at a consensus on everything. This seems like a very laborious exercise, but the benefit of it is that you have the best scientists in the world preparing the report and all the governments of the world accepting that report. So they have a sense of ownership. And this, may I say, is a very unusual exercise, because I can't think of any scientific effort on any subject which goes through this kind of process and which has the ownership of all the governments of the world. But this is, in a nutshell, the way in which an IPCC report is prepared. And the good thing is that all the scientists who work on this whole effort, spread over maybe 4 years or sometimes a little more, are doing this without any compensation from the IPCC. They're doing it for the pride, for the professional satisfaction, and what you might call the labor of love. And that's the strength of the IPCC.
So it's a labor of science and love.
Absolutely, quite right.
And once you arrive to the report and you find the urgency, and we have very urgent, very important findings. Now, how do you effectively communicate this? How do you manage this knowledge? Do you have allies you partner with that can help produce different type of products to target different audiences? What happens once the report is already made?
To be honest, in the past we were not very effective in disseminating the findings of our reports or the contents of our reports. We're trying to do a lot more now because we are a little better equipped to do that now. But despite that, I think what we really need is partners all over the world who pick up the findings of the IPCC reports and disseminate them in a manner that would be acceptable to the population in each country, in each part of a country, and to each section of society, to every age that we need to get this message out to. So I would say, as far as the communication of IPCC reports is concerned, there is a lot more that others can do than what we can do. And I hope this certainly involves the media, apart from other organizations like NGOs and so on, who can also make the best use of our findings and then disseminate them effectively.